Marcus Thompson has spent 3 decades wiring America, malls, hospitals, power grids, anything that needed to stay exactly where it was supposed to be. At 52, the union electrician finally built his dream, a peaceful corner lot home in Millbrook Heights, complete with lush Kentucky bluegrass, a smart irrigation system he wired himself, and a backyard sanctuary for his wife, Sarah, who was fighting early-stage Parkinson's. The lawn wasn't just grass. It was therapy, a symbol of everything he'd worked for. Then came her, Karen Whitmore, 48, blonde highlights that cost more than Marcus's tools, and a white BMW X5 that roared across his corner lawn like it was her personal shortcut to glory. Every morning at exactly 7:47 a.m., she'd gun the engine, tearing through $2,000 worth of grass to shave off 30 seconds from her drive. The smell of diesel exhaust replaced the aroma of coffee. The crunch of tires replaced peace. At first, Marcus thought it was an honest mistake. By day 3, the tracks carved deep grooves into his sanity. When he politely introduced himself, Karen didn't even look up from her flower beds. "It's a free country," she said. "Maybe don't plant so close to the road if you can't handle a little traffic." When he insisted it was his property, she turned, eyes cold and smiling. "Are you threatening me? My husband built this neighborhood. I'm on the HOA board. I'd be careful if I were you." That night, Marcus sat with his coffee and old electrical code manuals spread across the table. He'd spent 30 years designing things that lasted forever, permanent, stable, immovable. Karen had no idea what kind of man she'd just challenged. The next weekend, he made his first tactical move. He installed 8 motion-activated floodlights along the edge of his property, 8,000 lumens each, precise, weatherproof, legal. Monday morning, at 7:47 sharp, Karen's BMW hit the first sensor and was blasted by pure daylight. The screech of brakes was music. By Tuesday, she was honking furiously. By Thursday night, she returned wearing black, kicking his lights apart like a tantruming child, completely unaware his backup battery cameras were filming every move. Friday morning, Marcus found a letter in his mailbox. HOA complaint. Excessive lighting / disturbing neighborhood peace. Signed, Karen Whitmore, treasurer. But Marcus wasn't alone anymore. At Tony's Hardware, he met Mrs. Patterson, 78, sharp as a live wire, armed with a notebook full of Karen's crimes. "She's been terrorizing us for years," the old woman said, sliding him a plate of cookies and 2 years' worth of written complaints. That was when Marcus's insurance investigator discovered something strange. The property markers on his corner didn't match city records. A call to his old surveyor buddy confirmed it. Karen's husband, Derek Whitmore, had moved the property line on paper. Marcus didn't just own his corner. He owned 18 extra feet of land. Karen's shortcut wasn't just rude, it was criminal trespassing. Even her fancy retaining wall sat 4 feet inside his boundary. When Marcus confronted her with the survey, she laughed, voice dripping venom. "You think you can outsmart me, you blue-collar nobody? Derek and I run this place." She turned to leave, perfume cutting through the air like poison. Marcus just smiled. "Then you should have built on solid ground." The next week brought anonymous city code officers accusing Marcus of unpermitted electrical work. It was obvious who had filed the complaint. But Marcus knew his local codes better than the inspector himself. When the same officer showed up golfing with Derek Whitmore days later, the pattern became clear. Corruption ran deeper than a buried conduit. Marcus filed a Freedom of Information request and uncovered 47 fake HOA complaints signed by Karen, targeting half the neighborhood. She weaponized bureaucracy, filing noise violations, fence color disputes, and unapproved lawn ornaments to bully everyone into submission. Derek's construction company benefited from each complaint, fixing problems his wife created. By then, Marcus had one thing on his mind: permanence. If Karen believed she ruled Millbrook Heights, he would remind her that physics doesn't bend for entitlement. With the help of his lawyer, he confirmed his right to install a decorative concrete bollard on his own land. Purely aesthetic, of course. Using commercial-grade specs, he designed a post strong enough to stop a truck. 5 feet deep, reinforced with rebar, rated for hurricane resistance. On Monday morning, Karen returned from her Florida vacation, flooring her BMW around the corner at exactly 7:47 a.m., and met the immovable truth. The sound of metal meeting concrete was a symphony. The BMW's front were folded like paper. Coolant hissed. Airbags burst. Marcus stepped outside, coffee in hand. "Good morning, Mrs. Whitmore. Lovely day, isn't it?" She screamed. "You did this on purpose." He calmly held up the survey. "That's 8 inches inside my property. Maybe use the road next time." When the police arrived, Karen tried claiming vehicular assault, but Officer Rodriguez measured, noted the distance, and shrugged. Private property. Decorative feature. No crime. Karen's BMW was totaled. Marcus's concrete bollard didn't have a scratch. And as neighbors peeked through curtains, smiling behind their coffee mugs, everyone knew this war had just begun. Karen's BMW wreck became the talk of Millbrook Heights. The woman who once ruled the HOA now stood in her driveway shouting into her phone, her designer sunglasses hiding tears of humiliation. Marcus's concrete bollard stood firm, a silent monument to patience, precision, and poetic justice. But Marcus knew Karen wouldn't stop there. Entitlement never does. 2 days later, his security cameras caught her pacing her lawn, whispering into her phone, "I don't care what it costs. Make it look like utility work. Gas leak, water main, whatever. Just make that thing disappear." The next morning, a yellow excavator rolled up to Marcus's property, the engine rumbling like thunder. Karen marched behind it in boots worth more than the machine's tires, barking orders at a nervous operator. "Dig right there. Make it quick before anyone notices." Marcus noticed. He called the gas company. No repair scheduled. The water department. Nothing. The power company. No crews in the area. Then he called 911. Within minutes, police cars pulled up, lights flashing. Officer Martinez stepped out, already looking tired. "Ma'am, do you have permits for this excavation?" Karen smiled that fake innocent smile. "Officer, this is emergency gas line work." "Which company?" he asked. Silence. The excavator operator, sweating bullets, finally broke. "She offered me 10 grand to accidentally hit that concrete post." He even played a voice recording. Karen's voice saying, I don't care if it's illegal. I want that thing gone, and I want the old man to pay." The handcuffs clicked louder than her BMW's crash. Fraud, conspiracy, bribery, and trespassing, all on tape. As Karen was loaded into the back of the patrol car, she spat venom at Marcus. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." But she was wrong. Marcus knew exactly who she was, and now so did the entire town. A week later, Millbrook City Council chambers overflowed. Residents who lived in fear of Karen's HOA reign finally showed up to watch justice unfold. 3 local news crews covered the event. Karen arrived late, draped in arrogance and expensive perfume, flanked by her smug attorney, Richard Pimpton. He began with bluster. "My client is the victim of a targeted campaign. Mr. Thompson has created a dangerous obstacle." Councilwoman Sarah Gonzalez interrupted, her voice sharp as steel. "You're admitting your client routinely drove across his property?" A hush spread. Pimpton froze. He'd walked right into it. Marcus stood calmly beside his lawyer, Sarah Kim, who presented evidence like a surgeon wielding a scalpel. Survey overlays, HOA complaint files, and 3 months of crystal-clear security footage. Every act of Karen's vandalism, every illegal survey alteration, every phone call, displayed on a giant screen for all to see. When Karen's recorded voice rang through the speakers, "I want that concrete monstrosity gone, and I want the old man to pay." The room erupted. Applause, laughter, even cheers. And then came the twist no one expected. A woman in a dark suit stood up from the back of the chamber. "Mrs. Whitmore," she said, flashing a badge. "I'm Agent Patricia Rodriguez with the FBI. We've been investigating municipal construction fraud across 3 counties. Your husband, Derek Whitmore, has been altering property surveys and bribing officials for years. Your actions provided the evidence we needed." Karen's face drained of color. Her empire crumbled right there under the fluorescent lights. The council dismissed all charges against Marcus and issued a public apology. Karen and Derek were later convicted of property fraud and municipal corruption. She served 18 months in federal prison. Derek got 3 years and lost his contractor's license forever. The ripple effects were bigger than anyone imagined. Marcus's bollard, once mocked, became a symbol of community strength. He donated his settlement money to start the Millbrook Neighborhood Justice Fund, offering legal help to anyone fighting crooked HOAs or corrupt developers. Mrs. Patterson became the program's record keeper. Tony from a hardware store hosted monthly property rights workshops. The neighbors, once isolated by fear, were now a community united by truth and laughter. Sarah's health improved too. The peace that replaced Karen's chaos slowed her Parkinson's progression. She started gardening again, roses climbing around a concrete bollard now decorated with a bronze plaque that read, Millbrook Memorial to Community Justice, where neighbors stand together. Every weekend, the neighborhood gathered there. Kids played tag. Adults shared stories. The mailman finally stopped for coffee instead of racing past. Even Karen's old McMansion found new life when a kind young family moved in, eager to join the community she once tried to control. Marcus stood each morning, coffee in hand, watching sunlight glint off his bollard. It wasn't just concrete. It was proof that ordinary people could build justice from the ground up. Sometimes, he mused, the strongest foundations are the ones you pour yourself. And with that, Millbrook Heights finally became what was always meant to be, a neighborhood where decency, not dominance, ruled.